So, how about those Knicks? You think I'm joking. As a rabbi, it is my job to speak about not just our past and our tradition and our text, but also to speak about the world. And this week, it's hard to think of anything more relevant to talk about than the Knicks. And you know that's saying something, because you know me well enough by now to know I'm not the biggest sports person. But whether you watched or not, you know what happened Wednesday night in Game 4 of the NBA Finals. A comeback story for the ages. Just in case you don't remember, I'll tell you. 29 points behind, the Knicks rallied and pulled out a 107-106 win against the Spurs, which truly came down to the last seconds of the game. And if you were feeling dispirited and turned off the game or fell asleep after the second or third quarter, you would have woken up to very surprising news and probably some regret at your own choices. It is a very exciting time to live in New York. It is also, not coincidentally, a very exciting time to be a rabbi. When someone asks me, what's so compelling about Judaism, or why did I want to go into this line of work, weeks like this make it very easy to answer that question. Not because the Knicks won Game 4, but because of the seemingly tailor-made connection between life and Torah this week. This is when Judaism gets extra exciting for me. This week, we read Parshat Shlach Lecha. Among other pieces of the story, this parsha contains the story of the scouts. On God's command, Moses sends 12 scouts into the land of Canaan to report back. Who lives there? What's the land like? What should we expect when we cross the Jordan? 40 days later, they return from their scouting. Yes, they say the land does indeed flow with milk and honey as we've been promised. But of the 12 scouts, 10 come back cowering in fear, telling the Israelites that the inhabitants of the land are giants and that they will never succeed in taking control. Specifically, they say, and I quote, "We look like grasshoppers to ourselves, and so we must have looked to them." Though Caleb and Joshua, the other two scouts, have positive reports and share a hopeful narrative and urge the Israelites to trust in God, the people are frightened. By this point in the story, God's reaction to this shouldn't really surprise us. God is angry at the people's faithlessness and threatens to send down a plague upon them. But Moses and Aaron plead down God's judgment from death and destruction to simply exile. It will be another 40 years until the people can enter the promised land, because this generation of faithless Israelites have to die out first. It's not a particularly uplifting narrative. So what does it have to do with the Knicks? For me, this is a beautiful moment of Torah and life coming together to teach us the same lesson. The message of Caleb and Joshua is the same lesson I learned from Game 4 of the NBA Finals. That lesson is resilience. We do not give up. Even when the odds are stacked against us, even when we face physically or spiritually gigantic enemies, Jewish people do not give up. There are so many moments in our history I could use to illustrate this point, but we could be here all night. So instead, I want to share what I think is our greatest strength, the thing that helps us display this resilience again and again, and that is community. Our connections to one another are, I believe, the single most valuable tool at our disposal to overcome challenging times. Whether we're dealing with personal struggle or more communal difficulties, Jewish tradition teaches that no one works alone. When Moses feels the burden of leading the people, he is instructed to gather 70 elders to help. When our worship was the worship of sacrifice, we were supposed to bring offerings to the temple rather than sacrificing alone at home, to be amongst our people. Now, when we say Kaddish for a loved one, traditionally we are supposed to have a minyan, at least 10 people, to stand together to support us in our time of grief. But one of my favorite teachings about connection and resilience doesn't come from Torah or from basketball. It comes from the West Wing. Leo McGarry, President Bartlett's chief of staff, shares this story. This guy's walking down a street when he falls in a hole. A doctor passes by and the guy shouts up, "Hey you, can you help me out?" The doctor writes a prescription, throws it down in the hole, and moves on. Then a priest comes along and the guy shouts up, "Father, I'm down in this hole. Can you help me out?" The priest writes out a prayer, throws it down in the hole, and moves on. Then a friend walks by. "Hey Joe, it's me. Can you help me out?" And the friend jumps in the hole. Our guy says, "Are you stupid? Now we're both down here." The friend says, "Yeah, but I've been down here before, and I know the way out." We need one another to rally our resilience, but we don't necessarily turn to community so that we are pulled out of our struggles right away. True communal resilience is walking the challenging paths together, and it's our relationships that give us the courage to keep going. We do not give up. Caleb and Joshua don't lie to the Israelites. They don't say, "Hey, don't listen to those other scouts. They're wrong. Everything will be fine." Instead, they share a message of resilience. Yes, this might be hard. Yes, the inhabitants seem very strong, but the land is good. The future is worth it, and together we can overcome the challenges that lie ahead. It's fun to imagine Caleb and Joshua speaking to the Knicks at halftime. Yes, the first half was tough. Yes, the Spurs are looking good. But together, we can do this. We can win. Now, before anyone says this to me at Oneg, because I know somebody is thinking it, I'm pretty sure that the stakes of the NBA Finals might not be as consequential as the stakes of the Israelites entering the Promised Land, and that may be the most controversial thing I said tonight. We can argue later. But basketball fan or not, I think the message this week is clear. Even when the odds seem insurmountable, even when your spirit is flagging, even when it feels like we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, we keep going. We don't quit. We do not give up. And wherever we go, whatever we do it together. Shabbat Shalom.